Hey everyone, I want to show you one more work of Romantic period art, this time from a painter from England. Now this guy is interesting because he is an artist whose style is very recognizable. He has this very atmospheric style, and he's very drawn to landscape, even seascape, to create works of art that evoke a response in a romantic period way from you, the viewer. At the same time, he's also tapping into current events. So he's kind of, killing two birds with one stone to create powerful works of art that resonate and again evoke a response from you, the viewer. So let's take a look at the example I want to share with you. And this is probably the painting that has the longest title we'll see in this class. So what I'm going to do here is enlarge the image on my PowerPoint presentation. And I'm going to take myself away for a spell here so you can see what I'm talking about. So the artist, again, is an English artist, Turner, and the title is The Slave Ship, Slavers Throwing Overboard the Dead and Dying Typhoon Coming On. Wow, that's a mouthful indeed. But what you find here in this particular painting is a seascape, fundamentally. You might recognize that. You have, again, weather indicative of a storm, a swirling, churning ocean, an atmospheric storm cloud-ridden sky, a little hint of sun through that atmosphere in the distance. But this is the skill set that Turner brings to Romanticism, is this talent for rendering highly atmospheric scenes of landscape or seascape. What you might also notice, though it's not readily apparent because it's not enlarged or presented, in the center foreground, but what you find in the painting here is a ship. You can see this old-fashioned ship with a sailing mast, and that's one human element you see in this otherwise very large seascape. What you find with this particular painting is Turner came across a story in the newspaper about how at this point in the 19th century there was an active slave trade. Unfortunately, boats, arrived to the African continent very, very frequently and loaded up their hulls with, captured victims of the slave trade, packed in there in cruel and inhumane ways, with no contact with fresh air and sunlight and probably clean food and water, and they were hauled across to different destinations, particularly across the Atlantic Ocean. To different ports where they would be put to market as human commodities, right? It was a terrible point in human history that even the United States, of course, participated in quite a bit. What you find at this point is England has abolished the slave trade. They no longer practice in it. So Turner felt comfortable showcasing what happened on board this particular vessel, and that is there was insurance for for captains of these slave ships. So, for instance, if any of the slaves that he is transporting dies along the way, the ship's captain would receive some kind of life insurance, essentially, on that loss of that commodity. But if that slave arrived to port and they were weakened or diseased, that kind of thing, they may sell for less money, right? They're not completely fit and strong, and that would diminish that slave traders' profits as well. So one ship captain devised a very evil plan is just to go ahead and throw not only those who perished on the journey across the ocean, but also to throw overboard the diseased and the dying as well, and to claim that they died at sea and collect 100% of that insurance. So that's what happened. And fortunately, there was a whistleblower on board the ship who revealed what had happened, and it made the news. And this is one of the subjects that you find, besides, the subject of landscape or seascape here, what Turner is using is he's using nature in this world on this vast ocean to expose this crime against humanity. And he does it by tapping into the sublime. Now, he's not trying to take you to a transcendental place or spiritual, peaceful place like maybe Friedrich would have done in his romantic landscape art. This is a painting that's meant to outrage and horrify and evoke those feelings from you, the viewer, as well as great, heartbreak and compassion for the innocent victims. If you look closely, and I wish I could show you this on our big screen, but you would be able to see arms and legs with their shackles and chains still on their persons. Those are the slaves that have been thrown overboard. In fact, there's a kind of a feeding frenzy of birds and maritime animals attacking this poor individual. But do you see how Turner renders them in a small scale? All of that is meant to underscore the sublime, that there's no surviving being dropped in the middle of a vast, powerful ocean, especially when a storm is coming on, as the title indicates. Another thing Turner brings to his very atmospheric style, of course, all of that swirling, churning ocean conveys this kind of, danger and evil intent happening here. But Turner also uses color in an emotive way, meaning he's using colors that you see here, not to capture some kind of beautiful sunset. No, far from that. He's using reds to, have you think about violence, maybe the loss of life, of bloodshed, using oranges and yellows that are, again, evocative of, hellscapes, demonic evil behavior. So this is another example of romanticism and on the part of an English painter who uses his style to tap into both, using landscape, but also tapping into those current events to evoke a response from you, the viewer. All right. Thanks for joining me, everybody. See you next time.